This is the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast, episode number 56.
Hello, I'm not a real superhero, but when I am, I listen to the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast with, John Melly, or something like that. Hi, everybody. This is Mark Grau from the legendary Mark Grau VoiceOver Studios in Burbank, and you are listening to the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast with John Melly.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast. My name is John Melly, and this is the podcast dedicated to teaching in-depth and advanced marketing strategies for people in the voiceover and audio production professions. My goal is to help you make more money by showing you ways to leverage your time, charge more for your talents, and allow you to spend more time doing the things you want to do in your life. Hey there, it's John. How are you? Thanks for spending some time with me today. I do appreciate it. It has been a crazy summer, and I haven't been able to publish for a bit. This episode is a fun episode. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and this episode is going to be your questions answered. I put this out on the Facebook group a while ago, and man, did I get responses. We had some great questions, and we had some great discussions taking place. I've also gotten some phone call messages left on the SpeakPipe app at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com. If you want to leave a message to me directly, just go to voiceovermarketingpodcast.com, and when you get to the homepage, a little window will pop up on the right-hand side of the screen, and it's going to ask for your name and email address. And then you can record your message. It will come directly to me. And I love your feedback. I love your comments. And I'm going to hopefully answer your questions. So let's try and make this part of the show. Before I dive into that, I just want to say, I know I've been away for a bit, and this has happened a lot this year. It's been a crazy couple of years, I'll admit it. But I have been working on stuff. I haven't forgotten about you. I have 2 episodes already recorded. I just need to edit them and publish them. First, we're going to have Joelle Jacob. She's a member of the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast group. She's been a client of mine. She's a big supporter of the podcast. And you know how I'm always talking about creating your own products and services? Well, Joelle has done that, and she's written a book, and she has published it, and it's a fantastic book. And we're going to be talking about that with her next week. After that, I have Rob Berkeley returning to the podcast. We had him way back in one of the first, 10, 15 episodes of this podcast. And we're going to be talking about getting unstuck, because I've been going through a lot of that this year, and I've had several episodes. If you go back 3 or 4 episodes, you'll be hearing about my journey with that. Oh, I've also gotten emails, direct emails. They've been sending them to mike@johnmelly.com, and you can always do that as well. If you have a question or you want to reach out to me for any particular reason, for questions or comments or scheduling some time with me, reach out to mike@johnmelly.com. And I have to say, I'm so excited, even though we haven't published in a while. There have been 86,103 downloads of the various odd and sundry episodes of the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast. All time. I mean, that is so cool. So thank you very much. The other thing I want to say is that we now have 1,368 members of the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast group on Facebook. And so the responses and the dialogue and the questions and the comments and all the stuff that's being shared from all of the members, it's terrific. Let's get into the questions. This one comes in from Nick Donato. And Nick, I already replied to you directly via email, but your question was so cool that I wanted to share the questions and the answers with the audience. So Nick asks, first of all, he says, thanks for the info you share on the podcast. I just found it recently and catching up on past episodes. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. One question he had was, he was wondering what percentage of my work requires production with background music and or sound effects. And my reply to him was 95% of what I do requires music and sound effects. That's an estimation, but I think it's a fairly good one. The next question is, how often am I required to sync to video? And I replied, never, because it's not something I do or I focus on. I send voiceover tracks to the person who's producing the video. Sometimes I send it edited, sometimes it's raw, and I give them multiple options to choose from. Sometimes I just let her rip and let them pick which version of the line that they want to use. And I usually discuss how they want the material sent to them prior to the recording session. I'll set up a phone call, get on the phone with them for about 20 minutes, if that, and talk about style, tone, what they want, how they like to work. I want to be as accommodating to them and their workflow as possible. So if they're fine editing and they want options and they're comfortable doing that, I just go to town. So a client of mine is Pat Flynn from the Smart Passive Income podcast, and Pat will send me a bunch of liners, and I do very little editing on that. But basically what I do is I start recording, and I give each of the liners maybe 4 or 5 different variations and styles, and that's how they like to work at the podcast, is they like options to choose from. So, talk to your clients, see how they like to work. Are they comfortable editing? Some people aren't. They don't want it. They want it done for you. And so I will edit, and I will select the music, and I will mix it all down. And, I charge extra for that. And I use licensed music. So I make my clients, if they're going to use music, I make them pay for the music license. And I have some great people that I work with in music and negotiate with them on the deal that they wanted. And the deal for the music license, I'm kind of getting a little off track, but it varies on usage, obviously. So we figure out how they want to use it, and we go from there. Let's see. For the jobs that require additional production or sync, how do you charge relative to your rate for straight voiceover only? I think I touched on that just a second ago, but let me answer it more specifically. It depends on the job. Long form audio for editing and / production, what I do is I have a rate for hour of finished audio. So that hour of finished audio includes recording, retakes, editing, mixdown, etc. For short form productions like spots, podcast intros, etc., I have a voiceover session fee and a production fee, plus whatever music licenses are required, etc. So, Nick Donato, thank you for sending in those questions. I appreciate that. Again, if you have a question you want to send into the podcast, send it to mike@johnmelly.com, and we will use your question in an upcoming episode. I also want to thank Dennis Lee. Dennis sent us a message on SpeakPipe, and like I said earlier, you can send me a voice message directly when you go to voiceovermarketingpodcast.com and click on when you go there, there'll be a little thing that pops out on the right-hand side of the screen. Enter your name and email address, and then you can record your message directly to me through your microphone, your voiceover studio. So let's listen to Dennis's question now.
Hello, John. This is Dennis Lee, by the way. I just thought I'd try this little system you got set up here. Anyway, I am a working voiceover talent or artist. I really enjoy a lot of your podcasts and stuff. It's very usable information. Thank you. And when I was wanting to know I like to ask this to a lot of people. So if today, man, you woke up and you said to yourself, hey, I'm going to go out there and find me some work today, what would you do that would be the quickest and shortest way to actually go out and get a paying gig today? What would you do? Anyhow, I'll leave that out there, and you can get back to me whenever you can. And hey, keep doing what you're doing, by the way. I really got a kick out of keep doing what you're doing in voiceover. I thoroughly enjoy doing voiceover. I wished I'd have started it a long time ago, but I like where I'm at now. So good to hear from you, and you will be hearing from me some more. Take care. Bye now.
Hey, Dennis, thank you for taking the time to send in your message and your kind words and for your question. First of all, great voice. Love your voice. And great question. So if I woke up in the morning and I said, I want to get some work today, a paying gig today, what would I do? The first thing that I would do is I would reach out to current clients or past clients and see if I could be of service to them. Do they have any upcoming projects? Do they need any of the stuff that I've done for them in the past updated? The reason I say this is because assuming you've done a good job for them and they're pleased with your work, they already know, like, and trust you and have done business with you before. They already know what that process is like. They have experience with you. So all of those questions that people have going into something new have already been answered, or they have at least experience with you already. I mean, we all have stuff like that. We all do business with people that we know, like, and trust. That's what I would do first. The other thing that I would do is if I don't have any, if that's not going to work, if nobody really needs anything right now, the other thing I would do is start creating more stuff that use my voice talent and production skills to create products that I can sell. And we've talked a lot about that on this podcast. We'll talk about it some more. And we've had several people as guests on this show that have done that. And Joelle Jacob is one such person, and she's going to be on the next episode. It really doesn't have anything to do with voiceover, but at the same time, it does impact her voiceover. And I don't want to give away the episode yet, but you'll understand that when you hear our discussion. So she's taken her talents and her interests, and she has created a product, a book that she is using. And that is an asset that is going to continue to pay her over and over and over again. So 2 things, just to kind of recap my answer to you, Dennis. I would go back to current or previous clients, see if I can help them out again. Or barring that, I would go and create my own products and services and sell those. But thanks again for your question. And using that SpeakPipe app on the website, voiceovermarketingpodcast.com. If you use that app on the page, voiceovermarketingpodcast.com, it's called SpeakPipe, a little microphone and your name and email address. Leave me a message. I'd love to hear from you. And we'll put you in the show, if it's, of course, at all germane to the topic at hand. All right, so the big Megillah on this whole thing here was I got a ton of stuff from the Voiceover Marketing Podcast group on Facebook. The question that I put out there was, hey, folks, what stumbling blocks and obstacles do you face? Hit me. And so, we got some... we got some smart aleck answers from Chris Tom told me his biggest obstacle or stumbling blocks was stairs. But you've been doing CrossFit, Chris, up here in my neck of the woods, and I'm sorry we didn't get together this past summer, but I'm sorry about the stairs problem. I'm thinking that the CrossFit has helped you out, because I've seen your posts on Instagram, dude, and you look great. At any rate, Alan K. Davis says, getting up every morning. Alan, I can't help you there, buddy. And my reply here was, okay, everybody's a comedian. Rich Miller talked about marketing, and that's why he likes this podcast. So, Rich, thank you. But a little later, as this discussion started to unfold, we got some recurring themes. Kendra Rains reached out and said she wants to know where to get work. And she's talked about some of the pay-to-play sites. There was a huge discussion on different pay-to-play sites and whether or not they're a worthwhile investment and all of that. So let's talk a little bit about that. I guess that's the elephant in the room. And I'm not going to knock any particular pay-to-play site. I think everybody knows that it's a business model that isn't exactly perfect, but it has gotten people work. And I've gotten stuff from a couple of the bigger names out there. And I'm not going to mention any of them specifically, but we all know what companies are out there. So you can go to these pay-to-play sites and put up your page and put up your demo, and you can get clients. And one of my best clients, I'll be perfectly candid with you, came from one of the pay-to-play sites. This was years ago, and it was just getting started. I think today it's a different animal, because there are a lot of people who, quote unquote, do voiceover. And they go to these pay-to-play market sites. And here's the thing. I have long said that they're voiceover commodity marketplaces. It's basically what they are. A commodity is something readily found. If you listen to episode 1 of this podcast, I go into a whole discussion on whether or not you are a commodity. And I talk about how you can differentiate yourself, your products and your services from everyone else. Every person listening to this podcast has a different voice. Everyone listening to this podcast right now has different life experiences, different jobs, different levels of education, different areas of study, different, family dynamics. Some have had longer careers than others. Everyone is different. We're all different, to sound like The Life of Brian. Tell me you understand that reference. Sorry, I digress. But everybody here has their own voice. their own vocal quality, their own uniqueness. And that's your biggest asset. All of those things, what you bring to the table is distinctly yours. And so my problem with these pay-to-play sites is that everybody's kind of all pushed in together. And I'm not talking about the business model itself in terms of the rate structure or anything like that. These folks are in business, and they've set up the business that they want to set up. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to go there. I mean, I hate to sound cold, but my biggest problem with the voice-over commodity marketplaces is that you're competing against thousands or tens of thousands of people. So what do? You go somewhere else. You go where no one else is. I've talked about this before. People ask me what the biggest theme of the voice-over marketing podcast is. And I would say there are two themes of this podcast. One, marketing for businesses in general can be applied to voiceover. You don't have to have special techniques for your voiceover thing, aside from your demo. But an artist has a portfolio. Lawyers have a case history. And I can go on. People have a body of work that they use to showcase their expertise in a particular area. Voiceover is no different. So my point is that every business is the same in the sense that we all need clients. We all need to charge them money. We all need to provide awesome products and awesome service and high quality, all of that, customer service, great relationship, so that the client is thrilled and comes back for more and starts to refer you to other people who need your products and services. Every business needs that. Insurance salesman, lawyer, restaurants. You go to a restaurant because your friend told you about it, right? Or it got a great review on Yelp or something. This is how stuff happens. Voiceover marketing is the same as marketing. It's marketing. You've got to promote your business. You've got to promote your products and services. And so some of the guests that I have on this podcast are specifically not from a voiceover background. They come from other sectors of the economy. And we talk about that. And I try and relate back to what they're doing to what you do as a voice talent. So you can take marketing and apply it to voiceover marketing. The Voiceover Marketing Podcast is strategically named because I know I can get you to listen to the podcast because you're interested in voiceover. It's like, this could be, if I called it the Marketing Podcast, well, there's thousands of those out on iTunes and Stitcher and all that. But here I've niched this to my people, the voiceover people I know. I know this business. And so that's why it's called the Voiceover Marketing Podcast. Well, the dirty little secret about the Voiceover Marketing Podcast is it could be simply called the Marketing Podcast. And you can take the marketing techniques of any business and apply them to voiceover, and you'd be successful. So there's one theme of the podcast. The other theme of the podcast is, I talked about it earlier when I answered Dennis Lee's question, is the second way I would go out and get business is I would create my own products and services. And I would use my voiceover talents and my production talents to create stuff that people want to buy. And we've had a bunch of guests on the show that have written their own books, created their own products, their own services, and they have created assets for their business. So that's what I would say about how to get your own work. You can create your own stuff. So here's another question from TJ Jones. His obstacles are branding, networking, and marketing. Everybody talks about them, but no one can define them clearly. Okay, I get it. TJ, I understand. If you go back to an episode that I did with Andrew Locke, give me a second here and I will tell you. If you go back to episode 35, that's an interview with my good friend Andrew Locke. And Andrew has one of the most successful web TV programs out there. It's called Help My Business Sucks. And it's a great TV show. Andrew is a very, very savvy marketer. And Andrew sums up marketing like this, TJ. He says, marketing is everything and everything is marketing. So everything that you do, from the way that you respond to your emails, your marketing materials, the timeliness of your response to clients, anything you can think of is marketing. You're putting yourself out there as a voice talent. And I've heard it said that branding occurs through delivering your products and services. Branding is pretty much your reputation. A lot of people confuse it with a logo or a specific artwork or what have you. But I like to think of it as your reputation. And I'll explain why. When you think of Oprah Winfrey, she's a brand. She's a billion-dollar brand or multi-billion-dollar brand, but she has developed that brand over the course of time through her assets. You're a brand, TJ. It's what you bring to the table. So pretty much through your marketing and how you deal with your clients and the style of your voiceover and the delivery of your products, not just the vocal delivery and performance. I'm talking about the timeliness, the professionalism, how you invoice, collect, communicate with your clients, your prospective clients. All of that goes into branding. And so if I could sum up branding in one thing, it would be one word, it would be reputation. Oprah has a certain reputation, and she has been able to pretty much maintain her brand without damaging it with something really terrible. She's an open book. That's her brand. That's part of her brand. She does amazing things for people. She opens up schools in different parts of the world. So she's more than just a television show, but she's Oprah. She's got her own network on cable. And now she's going to be doing 60 Minutes on CBS. But with that brand becomes a certain amount of respectability. Walter Cronkite, if we go back a few decades, he was at one point known as the most trusted man in America. That was his brand because he was the guy who told you about the events going on around the country and around the world every weeknight. So that's his brand. Now, let me throw another name out there and see what you think about this brand, Martha Stewart. Now, she had a brand that was immaculate, but then she went to jail for insider trading. So it tarnished her brand. She started to lose endorsements. She's built herself back up. She did her time. So she's moved on, and she's moved on very well. But her brand was affected negatively by stuff that she did or stuff that happened to her. So branding is really your reputation. Everything you do in your marketing and how you deal with your clients, that all goes to your brand. You create a brand as you perform and deliver services to the marketplace in that context. The thing is that with social media today, if you screw up, and everybody's human and they make mistakes and they say stupid things and whatever, or they get misunderstood, it happens. But today you got to be kind of careful. I got to be careful. I've got a brand. It's John Melly Voiceovers and Production, the Voiceover Marketing Podcast, the Voiceover Athlete. These are all brands and trademarks that I have, and I work hard to protect them. Networking is, and thanks for letting me spend so much time here on this, networking is a different ballgame, but you can be marketing and branding, creating and building your reputation or sharing or getting a reputation with new people when you network. So you're out there talking with people and you're marketing and you are who you are. So your brand is with you. And if you go to places where others are that can use your services, that's networking. Here's an example of networking that I think is totally worthwhile. And sometimes it's, networking that is not worthwhile. And I need to be careful when I say this because I don't want to offend anybody, but more often than not, going to voiceover events, unless there are agents there, they're cool networking opportunities to develop colleagues and friends within the industry. But I don't know if you're really going to get an awful lot of work opportunities by going to a voiceover event. Those conferences are great because they have a lot of great education forums and work groups and speakers and all of that. But I wouldn't go to a voiceover thing. It's like when people put their demo on the Voiceover Marketing Podcast Facebook group page and links to it. Feel free to share your demos. Feel free to share your videos, all of that. That's awesome. But please don't be disappointed if you don't get a lot of work directly from this Facebook group, because we're all voiceover talent. And so everybody here they're already capable of doing what you do, but with their own spin. You know, it can help where people will say, you know what, I need so-and-so's voice. Maybe I can reach out to her. I have posted auditions from clients of mine that are looking for a voice that I can't deliver. If you go through this thread, if you go back a ways, every once in a while, I'll throw out an audition opportunity to the group here. So, I mean, it's worth spending some time here to look for that stuff. But if you're looking for other voiceover talent to hire you from this group, that's probably not a really good use of your time and effort. If you want to go for education, go to all the voiceover, FAFCon, and I can't think of another one off the top of my head right now, but I'm sorry. But, those conferences are all worthwhile to attend to get professional knowledge. They're not really good to network for job opportunities unless there are agents there seeking voice talent. But then you're in another commodity marketplace. You're in with all of these other people in competition. Yeah, they're great folks. I love voiceover people, but we're all competing. So why show up with a ton of people that are already doing what you're doing? When you network, go places where no other voice people are going to be. And this goes into my products and services and your unique background. This all ties together to a whole bunch of episodes. I've got my personal story marketing piece where you talk about your background and how you can use your personal story to create products and services that you can market. So here's the example that I always use. And I was just interviewed a couple of weeks ago by Michael Langsner, who's put together another voiceover podcast. And the example I used with him was, okay, let's say you are an expert in butterflies and you have a great methodology for collecting butterflies. What's to say that you can't create a voiceover product, a how-to on butterfly collecting? Or certain species of butterflies. Now, I don't have butterflies. I don't know anything about butterflies other than monarchs, migrate, and they're pretty. I have a beehive. I'm into honeybees. So that's my thing in the insect world. I have a lot of other talents and interests, but when it comes to the insect world, the honeybee is my bag. Anyway, you can create a butterfly audio program. You can write a butterfly book. You can go to a conference of butterfly collectors, and you can be the only voiceover talent at the Butterfly Collector Convention. The Butterfly Collector Convention. That was pretty good. Anyway, am I making sense? Be where no one else is. That's another theme of the podcast. Show up where no one else is. And you will own the voiceover marketplace in these other markets. All righty, let's move on. Michael Valenti's Michael, it sounds like you're overwhelmed. He's saying, honestly, trying to find out everything in this industry. He's had his demo produced by a company and he was not thrilled with his demo. Oh, thank you. Thank God he finally found Facebook groups like this one so that I can work with other VOs who've been there and or are at the same point I am. That's an awesome comment, Michael. I have got you in the podcast, dude. All right. Oh, okay. So somebody's talking about getting the first gig and how do you get money? Boy, did we get a whole bunch of stuff on this. Woof. Getting representation. Here's the thing. Getting representation means that you got to have something unique to give people who want to represent you. You've got to have something that they don't already have in their stable of talent, if you will. So again, this is being where no one else is, offering something unique. I can't tell you how to do that in terms of getting an agent, but that's all part of networking. And I'll go back to TJ's question, your brand, building your brand. This takes time. This is going to take time and it will change over time. Let's see. What else have we got here? Yeah, a lot of stuff about the pay-to-play sites here. And I guess I've already gone over that. Here's something about the catch-22 that I hear from people all the time. Let's go back to butterfly collecting as the example. Let's say you're a world-renowned butterfly collector. You're known throughout the butterfly collecting world as the person that knows the most about those beautiful little creatures. So How I ever came up, I use this example all the time, but how I ever came up with butterfly collecting, don't ask me, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth until it's already been said. Anyway, if you're a world-renowned butterfly collector that happens to have an interest in voiceover, and substitute butterfly collecting for anything you've ever done in your life. I was a meat cutter. Substitute butterfly collecting for meat cutting. Substitute it for being a cashier. Substitute it for being a mail carrier. What have you. Substitute butterfly with lawyer, doctor, dentist, candlestick maker. So you're a world-renowned butterfly collector, and you're interested in voiceover. Start creating products in butterfly collecting. Here's what happens. Everybody's like, how do I go from being a butterfly collector to a voiceover talent? Bridge them. Don't treat them as separate entities. You're a butterfly collector voice talent. For now. When you add the voiceover thing into the butterfly collecting, people go, oh, John, the world famous butterfly collector, is now doing voiceovers, and he's creating audiobooks about butterflies. Oh, okay. So the voiceover and or production, if you edit audio, if you don't, find someone who does. But if you're doing the voiceover that you do or the product that you create about butterfly collecting while doing voiceover just becomes an extension of the services that you offer as a world famous butterfly collector. One of your services might be providing specimens to museums and science laboratories all around the world. And by the way, here's an audiobook presentation on what I collected this year. Cool. Then you've got this audio production that you've voiced and produced in the butterfly collecting community, and it's an asset, and you're making money. Now, here's how you flip that burger to make money on the other side. Now that you have 2 or 3 audios about butterfly collecting or various aspects about butterfly collecting. Are you tired of hearing me say the word butterfly collecting? I'm getting tired of saying it, but here, let's just stick with this. Stick with me for a bit. This is where it gets interesting. Now you've got 2 or 3 books or productions on your butterfly collection. Now you've got a body of work. And when you start to expand your voiceover services to peanut farming or cartoon character voicing, when somebody says, how much does it cost for a project like that? You have a body of work to refer back to where you can say, well, for something like this, I charge blank. And you can charge what you want to charge because you've got a body of work to reference. And you can charge what you want to charge because you're the only voiceover game in town in the butterfly collecting world. Do you see how this works? Be the voiceover talent in the world that you are currently an expert in. If you're the voiceover talent in the butterfly community, you're probably the only one. But if you're a voiceover talent at one of the pay-to-play sites, and there happens to be somebody who wants to have a script read about butterflies, you're going to be competing against thousands of people. But if you're known in the community for butterflies, you're the person. They're going to you. You own that market. And then you just got to replicate that in different areas. And then you've got a bigger and bigger and bigger body of work to refer back to. And you got demos that you can provide people. That's how you take your expertise in a certain area, create assets that make money, flip that burger over, say, hey, this is what I get for doing work like that. Oh, and let me step back. Because you're the only one in the butterfly community, you can charge what you want because they have nothing to refer it to. You don't have to work for small amounts of money. You don't have to work for $25 for a read. If you put together a butterfly audio book, you can, first of all, if you're producing it for somebody, because you're the butterfly person, you charge what you want for it. But then you've got an asset. Let's say you write your own book and you do the audio book for it. That's an asset that people are going to buy over and over and over and over and over again. And then you go to the butterfly collecting conference and sell your audiobook. Charge what you want. Then you can say, yeah, this is what I get for that. When you become the voiceover for the, peanut growers of America. Does that make sense? That is how you make money in voiceover and stay away from the commodity sites. I hope that's been helpful, and I hope I made that clear. I will go back and revisit this audio and clean it up as best I can to make this more cogent. but there's the money. That's how you're not a commodity. Thanks for your questions. Let's do this again. Shoot me more questions and I will answer them. And thanks for listening. And I will be back, like I mentioned before, next week with an episode interviewing our good friend Joel Jacob. And until then, I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Our program originates in the Boston studios. We hope you'll join us again. Until then, we bid you au revoir, keep your chin up, and the best of luck.
Well, that's it for this episode of the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to it at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com so you'll get notices of new episodes. And please share it with your friends and colleagues in the voiceover world. Also, it would be a huge help if you'd like this podcast and rate it on iTunes to help keep it near the top of the list. Feel free to share your comments and questions about this episode and future topics you'd like discussed at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com. And if you'd like more information on one-on-one coaching where we focus on growing your business, feel free to drop me a line at my cyber assistant's email address at mike@johnmelly.com. Thanks for listening. Now go out there and share your voice with the world.